Hi everyone, Clayton here at etrailer.com. Here at etrailer.com, we install, test, and review a lot of different products to help you as a customer make a more educated decision before your purchase. Today we're going to be working on the 2017 Chevy Silverado 3500, and we're going to be taking a look at, and I'll show you how to install, the Air Lift LoadLifter 5000 helper springs. So here are our airbags installed. It's going to offer us up to 5,000 pounds of capacity whenever we're loading our truck down. So that's really going to help us ride a lot more even and make our ride a lot better. Not only for us, but also for our passengers. Our air lines run out the back here, down to the hitch. We have a bracket that bolts to the axle and one that bolts up here. All of our hardware is going to be included, so it's really easy to get it mounted up. We don't have to go to the store and look for anything else. Our actual airbags are going to be made out of reinforced rubber. Then our end caps are going to be Zytel nylon. So it's going to be really strong, but also light. So it's definitely going to take a lot of that load off of our factory suspension. Our PSI rating is going to be between 5 pounds and 100 pounds. We never want to go under 5 pounds. We always want a little bit of air in our bags whenever we're driving around. That's just going to keep them from deteriorating. Personally, I like to keep about 10 to 15 in there. That way it still flexes and it's more aired up, and that material is going to stay nice and strong. Here are the air fittings for inflation. Now, our customer was wanting to mount it a little bit differently, so we just left them loose here. But we do sell some brackets here at etrailer.com if you wanted to mount them to your hitch. Also, if you wanted to do an air compressor, you can find one of those here at etrailer.com. That's going to make life a lot easier. We're not going to have to get out and air up every time. But having our separate air fittings for each bag is really nice, because if we have an uneven load, we can put more air in that respectable side. My professional opinion, this is a very good upgrade to do if you have an end-bed camper or gooseneck or fifth wheel, or even if you're towing a really heavy bumper pull trailer. It's just going to make our ride quality so much better and also save our factory suspension. Before we add any weight to the bed of our truck, let's get a baseline measurement of where our wheels sit in our wheel wells. So we'll grab a measurement from the ground to the lower part of our wheel well. We're looking a little over 43 inches on the back. Now we'll move up to the front and get a measurement there. And in the front, we're sitting at 40.5 inches. After loading some weight into the bed of our truck, now we can get a measurement to see where we're sitting. The ground to the wheel well is right at 41 inches, so we lost about 2 inches of squat. Now we'll move up to the front. We gained about ½ an inch in height. So that's just gonna turn our headlights up. We're gonna lose a little bit of braking power. Our steering's not gonna be as good as it usually is, and our tires are gonna wear a lot differently. We're not gonna hit our bumps course with the weight in the back, just to get a good feeling of how it is. The suspension seems really dull and kind of weighed down. It makes the truck really bumpy and uncomfortable. I mean, we're only hitting this at 5 miles an hour, so you just have to think if you hit a big pothole on the road or something like that, you're really going to feel it with all that weight in the back. We're now going to head over to our slalom course. This is just going to be going left and right pretty quickly, just to get a good feel of how much body roll there is. With all that weight in the back, we can definitely feel it slowing us down. It creates a lot of body roll. Makes it very unresponsive. After hitting our test course without our airbags, it was definitely noticeable the weight we had in the back. The truck wasn't very responsive and the bumps are really brutal, to be honest. With our bags installed and our weight in our bed, we can now go ahead and get a measurement from the ground to the wheel well. And again, we're right back to that factory number when we measured it with no weight in the bed. We can move up front and just check there too. And right here in the front, we're back to that factory number. So our bags definitely are going to help offset that weight in our bed. With the weight in our bed and our bags aired up to about 50 pounds, we can go over our test course and just see how it feels. It feels a lot better over our alternating bumps. It's just more responsive than it was before. With that weight in the bed before with no bags, it really just felt kind of slow and very unresponsive. Just not really a good feeling. Now we'll hit our speed bumps that are next to each other. This is going to simulate a curb or a speed bump or anything like that. And again, it feels really good, very reactive. We're now over at our slalom course. We'll start doing those sharp left and right turns. And it is pretty remarkable how much better this feels. There's not as much body roll. It almost feels like there's nothing in the bed of our truck. To start our installation, we want to remove our spare tire. Then we lift our truck up from the hitch. If you're working on the ground, you can just use a regular floor jack and kind of lift it up a little bit to give us a little bit more room to work underneath our axle. We want to remove our jounce stopper. We're just going to take a flathead screwdriver, pry up underneath that collar, just like so. Might have to move it around quite a bit. They are friction fit, so luckily we don't have to use a socket. But like I said, we'll just jam that under there and kind of work it out. You use a flat-bladed screwdriver or a big pry bar, anything you have available. We now need to remove a 13mm bolt right here. That way we can get our line lowered and out of the way. We now remove our bracket and set it off to the side. We now want to remove our brake line bracket mounted to our axle. We're going to use a 13mm socket. Now we want to grab our 90-degree air fitting. We're going to grab our airbag. It's going to thread into this hole here. So we'll simply get it started. Once you feel it kind of get snug, you just want to stop. This will turn on its own freely. So just turning this isn't going to tighten it down. We can grab our wrench. We just want to turn this 2 times and make sure that that thread tape is engaged. So that's 1. And that's 2. Now I want to grab the top hat to our airbag. We're going to make sure our fitting's at 90 degrees pointing out. We'll grab this with the lip facing up. We'll slide this over our fitting and line it up with our holes. We can now grab our upper bracket. Our upper bracket is marked with L and R for our driver and passenger side. We want to take our notch, line it up with our air fitting, and line up our holes. Then we can grab our tapered hardware, the Allen head, and just get that started. We now come back with a 7/32 Allen key and tighten it down. Now we want to flip our bag over. We're going to grab our other bracket. We're going to line up the circle with the circle on our bag and line up our holes. Just like so. We want the end without our tabs to be on the air fitting side. So we're going to hold it like this and make sure that the back is going to be flush to the top. We'll add it on top just like that, lining up our holes. We'll add our tapered flathead screw, just like we did on the other side. Get them started by hand and come back and tighten them down. Now I just want to take our bag with our air fitting facing towards the center of our truck. We're just going to lift it up over our lines, kind of make sure we're not pinching anything. I have to compress the bag a little bit and work it around the axle, just like so. We're going to take our upper bracket and start to get it lined up with our jounce stopper, housing. You want to make sure to keep this line out of the way and our lower brake line that we removed that bracket from. You're going to put that over the front of our lower bracket. And we'll lift our bag up. We'll have to compress it a little bit. Just like that. And then we want to line up our center hole with the center of our frame. There are a couple different ways we can mount our upper bracket to our frame rail. If your truck already has a gooseneck or fifth wheel hitch, you are going to need to use the provided self-tapping screw. You're just going to drill that through the center hole and mount it straight to the frame rail. If your truck doesn't have a gooseneck or fifth wheel, you'll be able to use the U-bolts to mount our brackets on the top. You just want to drop the U-bolt over the frame rail and into the top bracket, and we'll add our nylon lock nuts. You want to make sure to tighten down both sides evenly. Before we start drilling for our upper bracket, we're going to mount our cross piece here that goes underneath our axle. We'll grab one of our carriage bolts provided and just drop that through our lower bracket, just like so. Then we can take our bracket, hold it up over our bolt, and get one of our nylon lock nuts started. We'll repeat that same process on the front side. We're now ready to tighten down our nylon lock nuts. We're going to use a 14mm socket. You want to tighten down each side evenly. You want to make sure that the radius on our bracket matches the axle. We now want to grab our small M8 hardware with our small flat washer. We'll add it just like that, and then we'll line up our bracket with these holes through our brake line bracket. We'll take this and just get it started in that hole. You just want to run this down hand tight, then we'll come back with a 13mm socket and tighten it down the rest of the way. If you are using the U-bolts, you're going to have to pull the wiring harness off of the frame just to give you a little bit more room to work. You'll want to do that here and on the frontward mount. But since we are using a self-tapper, we'll just mark our holes and then drill them out with a 5/16 drill bit. It is a good idea to use a smaller bit just to get a pilot hole started and make it a little bit easier to get through the frame. With our pilot hole drilled out, we can now come back with our 5/16 drill bit and finish drilling it out. You'll want to repeat that same process for any other mounting holes. We can now grab our provided self-tapping screw. So you're going to use a 14mm socket. We'll add that to our socket and get it started in our hole. We're also going to have a hole on the front side of our bracket. I went ahead and drilled that out. We'll get our hardware in. With all of our hardware in, we now want to come back and torque it down. All of our torque specs are going to be listed in our instructions. With all of our components installed on our driver's side, we'll repeat that same process over on the passenger side. We now have everything installed and torqued down on our passenger side. As you can see, our bag is kind of close to our exhaust, but no need to worry because our kit does come with a heat shield. On our little heat shield, you're going to see two tabs. We're going to bend these out just like that. And then what we're going to do is take our heat shield and bend it just like this to where it's flush with the bottom, just like that. And make sure to do that on both sides. We can now grab our provided band clamp. We're just going to undo it, then put it around our exhaust, and then we'll get it started. You just want to hold that there, and we can turn our set screw to get it started. We don't have to tighten it down too much, just get it snug but to where we can still move it around. You want to do this for both band clamps. We now want to take our one band clamp and slide it up, just like that. And we'll grab our second one, just like this. We'll try to position it in the best spot to protect our airbag from our exhaust. We now want to grab our airline tube. You do want to pick up some airline tube cutters to cut these, just so you make sure you get a good clean edge. If you don't have any, you can find them here at etrailer.com. But we're just going to grab it and cut it right in the middle. And using these airline cutters does give us that nice clean edge to prevent any leaks. Now we just want to take our airline, make sure both ends are, or our end is clean, and we'll push that into our air fitting. You'll hear a nice kind of pop noise whenever it's in there, but you can give it a pull and make sure it's not going anywhere. Now I'll run it up along our wiring and through our frame rail and show you where it comes out. Our airline's going to come out of our bag here. I ran it up and over our cross beam along our factory wiring, just securing it with zip ties. Then I pulled it through the frame right here. Then I left a good chunk of it back here because our customer is wanting to mount it a little bit differently than normal. So we just left it like this. But if you did want to get a bracket to go on your hitch, you can find those here at etrailer.com. We'll now route our other side the same way. Now I just want to add some air to our lines. Now I'm going to grab some spray. You can use just soap and water or anything like that. We're just going to spray it on all of our fittings. We're going to look for any bubbles to see if there's any leaks. With everything tested out, we know we're ready to hit the road. That's going to do it for our look at and installation of the Air Lift LoadLifter 5000 helper springs on our 2017 Chevy Silverado 3500.